Hey guys, Jason here for Chart Guys today. Not going to spend any time looking at the daily time frame because it's all about these hourly trends right now on Tesla. We hit a resistance at 258.31, which marked a reversal on our daily time frame, and it marked the high point for our hourly trend. After that point, we stopped getting higher highs and we started getting lower highs and lower lows. That's what the hourly trend change is all about, and that does offer us some consolidation for the daily time frame, and importantly for the hourly time frame. At that point, we were overbought, and now we're happy at 49, so we can allow the bulls, should they so choose, to have a pretty aggressive move tomorrow. But let's keep in mind it also allows those bears to have an equally aggressive move to the downside. We're right in the middle of the pack. So hourly downtrend is intact. Current high 255.75, current low 251.89. Now I do want to point out there are a couple of key levels for support for us in play. 251.50 is the support level from July 16th after hours, and then we also have a area of support. We had double bottom support here at 253.36, and we can see that it is acting as area support late this afternoon and in after hours today currently. So what we're going to be looking for is a continuation of this hourly downtrend, in which case we will lose a support of 251.89, likely knocking out 251.50 in the same time, and that will just have us setting lower highs and lower lows, continuing that hourly trend. Now, if we're going to change that and see the bulls step into action, it's going to look like us retaking the hourly trend back into the hands of the bulls with a close over 255.46. That will signify that this is going to have the bulls changing this hourly downtrend into an hourly uptrend, and we will look for a break over 255.46, signifying that, and hopefully getting a higher low somewhere over 251.89. That's all about the hourly trend right now. I said we were going to look at that daily, but let's go ahead and look at that. And should we do that, and if we adjust our perspective a little bit, spend a few more hours moving to the downside here, setting up a very bizarre looking bull flag, but much needed consolidation. That hourly consolidation will allow this daily RSI to get back underneath 70 and give those bulls a little bit of room to breathe to see if they can get any sort of mustard behind a continuation. But all eyes on this hourly pattern right now, looking for these bears to change this hourly trend back to the bulls. And we'll see if they have what it takes to do that tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic evening. Hey guys, Jason taking a look at Apple. In today's video, we talked about the dangers of making decisions based solely on small breaches outside of your areas of support and resistance. This is a daily trend that we've been bouncing inside. We had a Marabuzzo close yesterday, and in general, that means downside continuation. But we know that we're definitely range bound by the strong areas of support and resistance represented by our yellow trend lines. So yesterday I talked about how even though we closed under here, it's not a significant close. There's not a huge amount of volume. We haven't really breached this with any significance, and you need to be careful in those situations, because if you're just going to buy solely on a slight break of a support line, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble. And had you done that, you would have been in trouble today. We want to see a break. We want to see a substantially lower open, and we want to see commitment in a direction that will signify a major loss of a trend line. But if you're watching the 50-minute time frame, let's go over here. I've got it. So here's yesterday's close. The Marabuzzo close slightly entered the trend line, and we saw after hours weakness. But in pre-market today, we see a jump, and we see we're back inside the territory of our trend line. So there is that break, but lack of commitment. Bulls are right back at it. We hold support from July 16th. Low a day, 203.50, holds pre-market to the penny, signifying a major area of support for us, and bulls capitalize on that, see the strength, open hard, sell off pretty hard as well, still holding 203.76, so that support level remains intact, and bulls managed to get back in control of the day, V-shaped recovery, and a very, very strong move to the upside overall. A little bit of selling off and profit taking in the after hours, but that is expected because our RSI had breached 70 on the 15-minute time frame. RSI on the hourly is A-OK, and we are looking to break resistance on the hourly 206.11. Then we're going to look for 4-hour resistance, which is really nowhere to be found, and we will be right back inside this nice little channel, hopefully moving back to the upside. Current resistance, should we get there tomorrow somehow, 210.42, not going to happen very likely, but that is what we're looking at. We're going to bounce inside this channel until it is no longer in play. Should that fail, we will look to support levels. Current support levels for the bulls are going to be current low of this flush 205.04, and then a major support 203.50. I would say if we lose 203.50 with any amount of conviction tomorrow, we will be well outside our area of trendline support. We will have lost that major hourly support, which is going to be a double bottom for us here. And then I would look out below and say, look, we don't have much support on the daily time frame until over here at 198.41. But so far, no major red flags for the bulls. Looks like things are going to be resuming their natural course inside this trend line until they don't. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Hey guys, Jason taking a look at Amazon. Yesterday's video was short and sweet, and we said, you know what, there's a lot of weakness in this daily candlestick. It's a Marabouzo close, no daily support, a little bit of a gap to fill, and we're expecting some more downside based just on this information. And of course, when we're looking at technical analysis, we're not making predictions. We're sort of forecasting what we believe is going to happen just using the information that we have. I don't particularly care if Amazon is going to go up or down. I'm just going to make a hypothesis based on the facts that I have present. And Marabouzo close, weakness showing, loss of daily support equals continued downside in your next trading period. In this case, a daily time frame. So that's pretty much what we saw happen today. We saw a weak open. We saw an amazing flush to the downside, a little bit of recovery, and we are starting to see the hopes of a little bit of a trend change because we are in a slight downtrend, and this is going to be an indecision candlestick, a doji. And when you get this at the bottom of a downtrend, however slight, it indicates that you have reached sort of a zenith and you can expect a little bit of a turnaround. And maybe tomorrow we're going to see some action come up and hit this 1995.40 area, formerly support, now probably going to act as a resistance. So we definitely need to get over that if we're going to continue to the upside. So I'm going to leave that one intact, and I'm also going to leave this daily low intact because that's going to be a resistance for us that we're going to be considering as well as the high a day today. Depending where we open, that will come into play as well. So 3 nice areas for us to play with on the daily time frame. Let's go take a look at the 5-minute and see what Amazon did today. So here's our open. We get a quick flush of volatility that we often see in the morning. We get a new high, a lower high, 1984.83, and then we start to see that selling action kick into place. We see the price drop pretty rapidly, and the RSI in the 5-minute time frame didn't take very long at all to get into oversold territory, and we continue to see it go down. And when you get into the situation where you're seeing these big drops, you can jump to the 2-minute time frame and try to look for trend changes. Trend changes are going to be when you start to get a change from your consistent lower highs and lower lows. So we sort of look at what's happening with the push and pull between the bears. So here we have a high. We see the price drop. That's our new low. We get a lower high. This is as far as the bulls are able to continue. We get a flush to the downside, a little bit of a bounce. So each flush is a new low, each bounce is a higher high. And what we need to see is for this to change. And eventually it does change when we get a new high over the previous attempt. So this is your first signal that the trend is going to change. And let's zoom in a little bit and let's take a look, and let's call this one our high just for the purposes of our video here. So we get a big push to the downside volatility. Here's a new high. We get a continued low. Finally, we get over top of that level. That's our signal that things are changing. And we can see that we stop going into this 2-minute downtrend and we go to a little bit of a sideways channel here. And if we go to the 5-minute time frame, if you follow patterns in visual trading, you will be able to identify the fact that we get a descending wedge in this area. Descending wedge is a pattern that looks similar. Basically, we just get 2 downtrends and one is slightly more aggressive than the other, and essentially it is ping-ponging our price and tightening our range, and eventually the range gets so tight that it has nowhere to go, and the compression simply just makes things pop. And that's what we see exactly happening here on Amazon on the 5-minute time frame. So a lot of signals here today, a lot of good opportunity, and if you're watching these trades, looking for these bottoms, looking for these trend changes and patterns, amazing trade opportunities. And these happen all over the place every single day on multiple time frames. It's all about understanding what's happening, using these visual cues, and then being able to capitalize on them. So that's what happened in Amazon today. Here we can see that big move. Here's our upper wick from that morning volatility, and we continue to move into bullish territory on the after hours trading action. So if this holds true, we see continuation today. This indecision candlestick will mark the temporary bottom for a potential bounce, and hopefully we can get back up above 1995 tomorrow. Should that fail, we will look for support at low a day and look for the hourly support levels to hold. All we have is 1995 here is the low of day, and that's our hourly support. Beyond that, we're still in that area where we don't have much on the daily, down till 1906. That's it for today. I'm going to take a breath now. Hey guys, Jason here for Chart Guys. Members are requested that we start covering Netflix based on today's crazy action. I'm just going to start adding in tickers here as I go, slowly building up the repertoire every day, helping Dan out where I can. And let's start with Netflix. Today was a crazy day. And when we get these massive moves and changes based on earnings, we sort of throw out what's happened previously, and we use this as an area of price discovery, and we use as much recent data as we can, and we go back as far as we need to find some historical levels. The further back in time you go, the less reliable these levels are, but sometimes it's all you have. You got hourly, maybe a couple 4-hour points, but it all comes down to the 15-minute and the hourly time frame to establish support and resistance levels. Other than that, you got to go way back here to January 2019 to find areas of support and resistance, and that's what we got right there. 13.1860, that's an area of support for us. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark in this low, maybe acting as an area of former support, maybe going to act as resistance in the future. We'll see what happens. And in fact, I'm so hesitant to use that line, I'm going to go ahead and mark that as a dashed line, which is a little trick I use for myself to remember what support and resistances I place any personal emphasis on. Because sometimes when I'm scanning through charts and I'm looking at them rapidly, I need to leave notes for myself. And that's one of the ways I do that. So we're all about what is going to happen inside this candlestick. That's going to give us some guidance for tomorrow. This is a complete indecision candlestick on massive volume. A lot of people getting in, a lot of people getting out. But ultimately, this candle tells us nothing. It's an indecision candlestick with no direction and no clarity. So we need to see what happened on the sub-time frames to see who has the upper hand. So we'll zoom in and take a look. There is that massive move down to the downside here. A lot of after hours chop. And here's today's trading action. What do we see that's important? Well, we see a flush, of course. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, see if we can get some more clarity. And what's important is that we have set a higher high on the 15-minute time frame, and we have set a higher low going into after hours. So it's a slight indication that the bulls have some control right now, because if they did not, they would not be able to be setting these 5-minute higher highs, higher lows, and ultimately getting that 15-minute higher high. It's all about who has control of these time frames. So right now, the bulls have control of the 15-minute time frame. If they can carry that into tomorrow, that will be very key. And we will use these 15-minute levels to try and find areas of support and resistance. So we will be looking to 325.95 as an area of resistance for us. And we will also be watching a couple of key levels for support, 1321.82 and 32. I may have said 13. I have intended to say 321.82 and 320.30. Those key levels are going to be very, very important 15-minute support levels. We will see whether they come into play tomorrow, and we will look to those levels. First to break generally offers you the most guidance as far as direction. Should we break 32.30? Should we break 325.95? This is my last video. I'm running out of words. Should we break 325.95, we will look to find resistance at the high a day, early morning flush, 329.85, and then ultimately we will see if there's anything to 332.65. In the other direction, if we knock out 321.82 and 320.30, we will look to see if there's any sort of level to be had at 318.60. That's it for today. A lot of indecision in this candlestick. We will see what these key levels give us insight into tomorrow. Look for some consolidation patterns, look for directional patterns, and we will see what the Netflix bulls and bears are capable of.